Hello, everybody. I am assuming I have got some co-presenters here today, who we will see in a minute. But today we are going to talk about strengthening DMS through a virtual platform. My co-presenters are from Melbourne. They're both from Melbourne. And Melbourne is a big...
we'll ask you to close this tab. Don't let it open because if we...
Eastern Health, Melbourne is a big city, 4 seasons in a day, renowned for changing the weather quickly. It's renowned for being the city that had the longest lockdown across the globe, with a nice high vaccination rate. We're going to speak to Gail from Eastern Health, who is from a large health service, again, seeing a lot of patients on a day-by-day basis, 4 hospitals, 10,000 staff, so a big organisation. And I'm also going to be joined by Jim Glover, who works for Busy, a global company, but head office in Melbourne. And they're famous for producing the largest custom box. So that's something certainly to be celebrating, to be known for producing the largest box. And they have about the same number of employees globally as Eastern Health have in Melbourne. So I do thank our speakers who will join us in a moment. So I wanted to start here with the house. We've heard a bit about the house today, and this metaphor that has 5 dimensions that supports organisations in becoming high performing and delivering complete value to our customers. And so I find it really helpful to think about the fact that, within every house, we probably need a bike as well. Most households have a bike. And in actual fact, we teach our children to ride bikes from a very young age. And most children can ride a bike as well. And most people can ride a bike. So it's something that we can all do. So I like to think about the lean management system in terms of being a bike, with the handlebars being the steering, the back wheel being the big improvement that we do, big PDCA, big value stream improvement, and the front wheel, when we kick things through to the front wheel to sustain, to continuously improve on a day-by-day basis. I learned about this bike when I was at Stanford Children's Health, and I knew lots about the back wheel and how the back wheel worked, but I didn't know so much about the front wheel. And so while I was there, I really, really studied it hard, and couldn't find anything in my reading that was really answering my questions about what was included on the front wheel. And so I decided to, with the help from some of my Stanford colleagues, try and describe this system with the elements that you see here. And, on the tyre, we see our standard work. And this is, really where the rubber hits the road. And then we have some processes there, daily processes for solving problems. And in healthcare, we find this daily process for recognition also really, really important. There are some practices here around leader standard work and improvement teams meeting locally. We've got some enablers over here on this side, some huddles, visual practice, protected time, which we're going to talk a little bit more about later. And then, of course, this really important everyday improvement ideas system that helps us get towards our true north on a day-by-day basis because of the engagement, involvement of the teams. But sitting in the heart of this wheel is the fact that, the purpose is around developing people to solve problems. And the really cool thing is that if we solve problems, we're also developing people. So these these two things are working together, and I think that on a day-by-day basis is the most coolest thing about a daily management system of all. And so our enablers of visual practice and huddles are a really important part of our daily management system. But what we found is that when COVID hit us, we all became a bit challenged by this. And these are actually two huddles that stand for Children's Health. And I love looking at the looks on people's faces during huddles. There are technical pieces to huddles, but there's also a really important social piece to huddles where we come together and we connect, and we get to think about what the day is going to be like, and we get to plan together. So we've got people communicating enabled by visual boards. So for the last couple of years, I've been working at Eastern Health with the team, with the senior leadership team there, and we took a big, long, hard look at their huddle, and we decided to think about its purpose, and we redefined its purpose, and that purpose all became about, number one, connecting with the front line. Number two, addressing that, which meant identifying, resolving, and escalating problems. Number three, developing staff, and we know those 2 and 3 go together very closely. And all importantly, number four, which they were already quite good at, getting a clear picture of the day. So pre-COVID, not too long before COVID, we sort of, I suppose, refurbished their Tier 4 huddle, and the representation here is, and we know those two. The representation here is of each executive director's business. They're coming to share what's going on in their area. They're thinking about problems on a day-by-day basis, and they're also looking at some metrics. And when COVID hit, we found that we had some problems. We had a hybrid problem. We couldn't see the boards. We couldn't see everybody in the room. It was difficult to have a voice, and basically, people just didn't feel part of the team. So we had to try something different. And so the answer was basically to go 100% virtual. And we found that this allowed us to see everyone and see the information together. We used a cloud-based platform, replacing our usual visual practice. And that was a partnership we developed with a Toyota trained team who really understood the lean management system. And the company is called Team Assurance, and they have worked tirelessly to support Eastern Health with a custom system that really supports their Tier 4 and now Tier 3 and now Tier purpose of their daily management system. It's really interesting here. You can see the chat here, and really the chat became the corridor conversations. Corridor conversations are really important in huddles. And certainly we found that the corridor conversations came back as we went into 100% virtual system. So we effectively transitioned from, I suppose, all being in one room to half being in one room, and now we're 100% virtual. And so from that point of view, problem solved. But I think the really cool thing that has happened since that time is that the daily management system and lean management system has actually progressed at Eastern Health. And I'm going to hand over to Gail Smith, who is the Executive Director of Quality, Performance and Innovation at Eastern Health, to tell you some more about that story.
Thank you, Denise, and well, it's good afternoon here from Melbourne, and despite you describing Melbourne as having 4 seasons in one day, today is a 10 out of 10 day in Melbourne, actually, so we're making the most of it here, and I hope you're all having a good time and staying awake wherever you are in the world. As Denise said, I'm going to talk a bit about how we've been able to use a virtual process to strengthen and progress our daily management practices. You can see from this slide that what we've done is bringing information from our Tier 2 level of our organisation. We've now got 102 different huddles. Actually, these are our columns of information, if you like, but they actually come from people, real people, talking about the daily problems that they have, and that comes into our huddle at Tier 4 as 8 key summaries. And that's really been a great way for us to see and hear from all areas across Eastern Health. We can hear about what their day was like yesterday, and then what are their problems that they're trying to solve today. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about what we've done to strengthen our daily management system through using our virtual platform. Our daily management system and our practices are described there in our front wheel. And I know many of you have heard about the bike and the front wheel, and that front wheel describes all of our daily management practices. So now in our team assurance, we have true visibility of our front wheel work. We took our face-to-face practices, made them virtual, but actually what we did was enhanced our visual practice of our daily management system. So the first question you can see up there in that row that's going across the top of the slide on reflection, it says, did we give GCEE? So GCEE is great care everywhere, every time, and that's our true north. So we start out now our daily huddles, our Tier 4 huddles, with actually trying to get a view about, did we deliver on our true north yesterday? And you can see we had some people one person who was red, which means that they needed some help. Some other areas that were amber, they had some issues but were managing them internally. And for the other 4 areas, they were green, and so they were able to give great care everywhere, every time. Our recognition practices were really enhanced, and you can see there some examples actually of our values cards. They're our values that are written down the right-hand side, and each day we acknowledge people right across Eastern Health who have really practiced consistently with our values and done something that's worthy of recognition. These cards are now available electronically, which means that whoever we can see who's been recognised, and then anybody in the team can provide feedback and that recognition. And it's certainly really well received right across Eastern Health that we are recognising people for their contribution on a daily basis. Over on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see the changes that have been made to metrics. At the top of that is the way we used to have a look at our metrics. Now in Team Assurance, we're actually able to provide some longitudinal graphs of performance, and we can see what's happening over time. And that's really given us a greater focus on what are the important things for us to be looking at on a daily and weekly basis. What we review in our metrics gets reviewed every week. We take things off if they're no longer important, and we bring things on if we really want to be able to focus our organisational attention on a particular area that's worrying us or that's got a problem. Next slide, please, Denise. So now I want to talk about the work we've done actually to progress the DMS and what we've found with Team Assurance, and you can see there on the top right, we've actually got some pull happening, and we're really pleased to be able to see that leaders across Eastern Health are reaching out to us and actually asking us for access to Team Assurance. They're asking for access to our virtual platform. But actually what they're really asking for is access to our daily management system and the support that's needed from the leaders to be able to practice consistently with our daily management system. And this is really, again, about getting right through our organisation, our support for our leaders to solve problems and develop people, and being able to use our guide to be able to do that. So what have we seen that's improving? We've seen our problem-solving skills improving. We've got really increased visibility and responsibility for problems. And you can see on the daily problem board that actually what we're able to do is distinguish between what are our little problems that are the just do it's, and they're the things that we keep attending to there and then and try and get them resolved within 24 hours. And we've got better identification of what are our big problems, and then we can make an explicit decision about whether we need to really send them off to more in-depth problem solving using our A3 thinking. And all of that gets recorded on Team Assurance. It's helped us get better at A3 thinking. All of the executive have tried A3 thinking for solving a problem. And for some of people, that was the first time that they'd really used that process. And we can see how really everybody's getting much better at it. This system's really one of visibility, and what we've had to do is trust that people who are accessing this information are going to use it in the right way. So anybody who has access to Team Assurance can see anything that is on Team Assurance and can make any contribution to it. So it certainly builds a community of practice and gives visibility of the things that we're working on. We've had a great experience of PDSA. We've had ongoing improvement of our daily management system. And as we've improved Team Assurance, we've actually improved our daily management practices, and that's been the real benefit for the organisation. We've strengthened our focus on our true north. Every day we discuss our true north, and every day we discuss, are we ready to provide great care everywhere, every time? I would like to thank Denise for all her support of us and coaching of us, because we would not be where we are without her support, and also acknowledgement to all my executive colleagues for all of their great work in this area. I'm going to hand over to Jim to hear the Visi story now. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Gail, and thanks, Denise. You've been working tirelessly all day and night. Good afternoon from Melbourne. It's a gorgeous day here, and it's great to be part of such a great program. My name's Jim Glover. I'm the Group Continuous Improvement Manager for Visi. Visi make packaging, and we recycle here. We're the largest privately owned company in Australia, and in America at least. We've actually constructed 5 out of the last 6 paper mills. So we're a huge company, which some of you may never have heard of. But 5 years ago, when I joined the organisation, I realised very quickly that lean was an unknown quantity. It wasn't part of the language, and certainly we were proven that we were a very traditional, fiscally focused organisation. So to change that, the executive, and I was lucky enough to be their lean coach, focused on our vision to be the global leader in creating sustainable packaging solutions for a better world, but to use the values, which are, I don't know if you can see though, by customer focus, relentless pursuit of value, safety and environment, acting with urgency, and developing excellence in people as the way we were going to achieve that vision. So to actually bring that down to the guys onto the shop floor, to put some tangible and practical focus on that, we had to make it simple. We had to make an image that was very sticky, hopefully in people's minds. So that image was one of a tripod, whereby basically 3 things working in concert. That is daily visual management systems, problem solving and root cause analysis, and the concept of confirmation of standardized work, and 5S were the absolute pillars of what we, I suppose, intended to see in workplaces and where teams and groups of people work. So a very, very, very simple model born upon 3 concepts. If you can step through a couple of animations, Denise. So why 3? Why 3 in concept? Because if you think about it, one can't exist without the other one. Visual management and team meetings can't work unless it has a focus to solve problems. And both of those really can't work either unless they're standardized, or we actually lock in the improvements so that continuous improvement can be incremental and sustained. So that was our model. So if you just step through, Denise, please, to the next slide. The first thing was obviously to focus on daily visual management systems, and this is where we'll dwell today. I was a bit of a Luddite, like most people, right? The power of the pen, the power of the dry white marker on the whiteboard. That's how I grew up. That's all I knew. So that was a big part of where we started. But of course, with the onset of COVID and people working remotely and a game-changing environment where we needed to provide coaching and visibility, something had to change to enable the opportunity for plan, do, check, act in every workplace. So if you move on, Denise. We even established standardized work to create rigor around how we moved around our visual management systems. But again, in a virtual environment, this just doesn't work. It isn't tangible for the people who we want to engage with and inspire. So something had to change. So the same problem as the guys at Eastern Health had, this didn't work for non-co-located national and international teams like we do have in Visi. They can't see the boards. They can't see everybody in the room. And it's difficult for everybody to have a voice. So we started to bring in technology. We actually brought in the advent of dashboards, virtual dashboards. So there was a live streaming of performance metrics, whether they be leading or lagging. And we used Click to actually tell the story of how we were traveling against our target. So basically, using those values as prompts to the type of metrics we were measuring, using that to then drill down, Denise, into the metric, how we were traveling, and also to show a trend of whether we're going in the right direction and not. To provide that scoreboard, one more click, Denise, to show where the trend was at any one time. However, that only really worked for the check part of PDCA. So the next slide shows how, well, apart from the fact that we had to focus on both leading and lagging KPIs, and the message behind this is no point in screaming at the bathroom scales as your only measure if you're not measuring the amount of movement and regular exercise and balanced diet you're having in your leading indicators. So to paint this picture, but also to actually focus on what we're going to do about it, what the next steps are going to be, what we're going to plan. This is where we too engaged in partnership with Team Assurance. As you can see there, it brought technology into the workplace. It brought it down onto the shop floor where people can be engaged with the data and the information that they needed to make better, more informed decisions about what to do next. So as you can see there, that's people engaging with digital visual management every single day, every shift, on the job and at the Gemba. So breaking that down again, what that looks like is virtual teams. And as you can see here, a few examples of the platform that is Team Assurance that we use all the time here at Visi now is teams showing how they're traveling. Are we on track or are we not? Is there an issue? Do we have a balance of the metrics? How are we doing in terms of our success or otherwise factors every day? This brings it to everybody in the organization. And my final slide. So the reason why we do this really is to use this model, lean at Visi, 5 years ago, it was a completely alien concept. But through Lean at Visy, we were able to bring authority to where the information is and bringing that information to the people that can have the most effect on the outcomes every single day. So bringing continuous improvement to where live and digital information sits. And in so doing, for the first time in forever in our 70 years history, we really stand a chance of developing a respectful climate and a creative environment for everyday continuous improvement, which is Lean at Visy. So I think I did okay for time. Perhaps we can open up for a few questions to either myself, Gail, or Denise. If anybody's there.
Sorry, I was on mute. I've got too many things happening at once. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Gail. We've got a couple of minutes left, and I actually haven't looked in the comments as yet to see if there's anything there that we want to comment on. But I was struck, Jim, we've only been talking for the last couple of weeks, and I was struck by your comment around being a Luddite and being all about the boards, and that was totally my starting place too. When I first heard that there was something virtual that could help us and help progress our management system, I speak to the hand. I wasn't keen on learning about it. I wasn't keen on doing it, and I actually have been really surprised at the progress that Gail described, and the fact that we have had senior leaders, certainly at Eastern, who probably did some outsourcing of A3s rather than doing A3 thinking, and just the transparency that this system has provided and has helped develop. So I'm not sure, Jim or Gail, if either of you would like to comment further on that.
Well, for me, Denise, it was that realization, I suppose, that I too can be a bit one-eyed or myopic. And when I was taken to see an example of this working every day with practical guys on the shop floor in, I think it was a place in Melbourne. Again, I had to reassess what I saw as valuable as well. So again, it's a big lesson to me to open my eyes that this generation probably, I suppose, there is a consistency in the principles that Lean preaches, I suppose, but the mechanism to how people work and what environments and what technologies they work in, Lean has to move with the times as well. So a wake-up call for me, but a very happy one. And it's a very happy environment that engages more people through things like team assurance and Click, etc.
Actually, Gail, Alice just put a pretty cool question in there. Is it easier to start with the manual DMS before moving to electronic? And I think based on the experience that you're having at the moment, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that actually it's a real question about digital workflow. So what Team Assurance does is digitalise our workflow. And if your workflow is not clear, you can't digitalise it. So and that's what we've been doing, is understanding what's our workflow, and then we can digitalise it. And so sometimes we digitalise it and work out that it actually doesn't match the workflow. So actually we're in a sort of PDSA of building the system. We're lucky that we can do that. Often developing digital workflows doesn't give you that.
Thanks, Gail. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Gail, for joining us today. And we're a weird bunch to be talking about about virtual systems, but I think Chris will be proud of me.
Thank you, everybody.
Great.
Thank you.
It was great, Denise. Excellent to be hearing.